Thanks a lot. Matthew Lee, Intercity Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks again for this briefing. I wanted to ask you about something that's in your report. Just there was this line in paragraph 11 that jumped out at me where it says, in the third person, that the Special Rapporteur continues to have informal contacts with officials of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea with the support of a wide network of regional and international CSOs. So just if you could say a little bit more, it's obviously sort of grabs. And on the question of the sanctions, last time you were here, you talked about, at that time it was a ban on coal sales. Since then, they've moved to seafood. Can you say what the impact, I mean, obviously, they would say the goal is to stop part of the revenue going to the government for its nuclear program. There are obviously people that work in those industries. So what are you saying that these kind of sectoral sanctions can have a human rights impact beyond, the cases of wheelchairs and cancer patients, but just direct economic sanctions? And just finally, you're one of the few rapporteurs that to your credit, that deals with this issue of the impact, the other side of the coin of sanctions having a human rights impact. The one on Eritrea doesn't. The one on Iran yesterday said she won't do it until she's allowed into the country. Is your approach just based on your personality? Is it part of your strategy to try to get governments like Myanmar previously to engage with you? How would you explain it? And do you think the UN system should, in fact, have a consistent policy of either addressing the impact of sanctions or not? Or should it be up to each rapporteur? Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew. I think that here in New York at the Security Council should be some space and some mechanism dealing with this, which I don't see at the moment. I will respond first to that. Yes, I remember last year talking about sanctions just smoothly because the sanctions were already there, but it was not clear to what extent they might have an impact. And now this year, again, as you say, the sanctions regime has increased with bans on exports of seafood, coal, iron, lead, etc., textiles. So yes, the question on how this will impact on the economy, because to be honest, as a reporter, I don't want to see that the United Nations is putting the government of the DPRK in a position to choose between nuclearization or economy. Now, having said that, I want to repeat something that I said many times, and it is at the outset of all this discussion, which is that the government of the DPRK is the main responsible to respect the human rights of their people, to put all the resources in the human rights, whether it is civil and political rights or economic, social, and cultural rights. It is their responsibility. I believe that there are patterns of serious human rights abuses in North Korea, and this is something that it needs to continue to be said, because this is reality. And as a reporter, after 1 year as a reporter, based on my own elements of information, I can reach that conclusion. There are patterns of serious human rights abuses. Then we discuss in which areas, but they are. So this is a very serious situation in North Korea. So the question of how the sanctions operate in the country has a relationship also with this question of patterns of human rights abuses. So we should be very careful when addressing these questions of negative impact. It's not a matter of being on one side or another side. It's a matter, at least from my point of view as a human rights reporter, is to care about the livelihood of the people living in the DPRK. That's the main objective. I hope I responded to that, Matthew. And the other question, it is interesting, because on my strategy to engage the other approach, I started to talk to those humanitarian organizations who are working on the ground, who are committed to help the people of the DPRK on the ground, with a lot of challenges, but they are still doing that, and they deserve my respect. And I called for their help, to help me reach out the authorities, and I am in that process, basically. This is what can I say without going into further details, but it is a slow process, risky process for everyone, but worth to go forward.